Since it's 6 o'clock, let's call the meeting to order. This is the Town of Alton Zoning Board of Adjustment public hearing for Thursday, February 2nd, 2025. And it's 6 p.m., starting at 6 p.m. Let the record note that. To begin the meeting, I'd like to introduce the folks at this desk. Norma?
I'm Norma Dietrich.
I'm Mark Manning.
Calmly. Tony.
I think what for tonight we're going to add an alternate. So if someone will make a motion for Paul.
I'll make a motion to have Mr. Manzioni sit on the board this evening.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Paul, for helping us out. This meeting, let me read the statement of the appeal process. The purpose of this hearing is to allow anyone concerned with an appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment to present evidence for or against the appeal. This evidence may be in the form of an opinion rather than established fact. However, it should support the grounds that the board must consider when making a determination. The purpose of the hearing is not to gauge the sentiment of the public or to hear personal reasons why individuals are for and against an appeal, but all facts and opinions based on reasonable assumptions will be considered. In the case of an appeal for a variance, the board must determine facts bearing upon 5 criteria as set forth in the state statutes, and we'll be discussing those as we go through the cases. For a special exception, the board must ascertain whether each of the standards set forth in the zoning ordinance have been or will be met. Let's dig into the agenda unless there's any other concerns. Let's start with the first one is case Z 25-01. Am I right here with the 2 there? Would anybody like to approve the agenda as stands, or is there anything that needs to be added?
No, any changes, or is it?
There are no changes to the current agenda.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as so written.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so for tonight, there are 2 cases that have been requested to be continued at the applicant's request. The first is case Z 24-44. It's an administrative appeal that was requested in reference to a notice of violation from the code official alleging unlawful storage of vehicles. That's case Z 24-24. Christopher Drescher is the agent for Robert Flannery and Alton Pittsburgh LLC, excuse me. That case will not be heard tonight. The second case is that will not be, it was continued at the applicant's request as a special exception for a contractor's yard. That's case Z 24-47. Same folks, Christopher Drescher, the agent for Robert Flannery and Alton Pittsburgh LLC. Neither of those cases will be heard today. They've been continued to February 6th, 2025.
Mr. Chairman,
Please, Paul.
point of order. I believe we need to make a motion to continue these cases. Should be seconded, discussed, and voted on. And at that point, I think we should ascertain how many continuances have already been granted on this case. But anyway, if that's acceptable to you, Mr. Chairman, and the board, then I would make a motion that we continue cases Z 24-44 and Z 24-47.
I'll second.
All in favor?
On a discussion, if we may.
I'd like to have a discussion.
Yeah,
Discussion.
that's not a problem.
So how many times has this applicant come to the board at this point? Norma?
I know they came to, I don't have the dates and the numbers in front of me. I know that it was, the appeal came first and then the special exception came second. So the appeal and special exception got together at the second meeting. And I believe it's been continued since then.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, I think there is, that's an important distinction. I think the application for special exception didn't exist when the application for appeal was brought. And then I was present at that meeting where the board and the applicants agreed that they would do a special exception and combine it with the appeal. And so, and then it got continued, I think, in each instance for good cause and for good reason. There was a lot to do with regard to the special exception application. And I think if it's still the same, we allow 3 continuances before an applicant has to begin again. But I would point out that with regard to the first continuance, I think that was a little different circumstance because both the board and the applicants, I think, had reached a special agreement with regard to that as part of the process. And it really wasn't just their continuance. And if my recollection is correct, I think they've had 2 previous continuances just on their own. And so this would probably be the 3rd. If I'm right about that, I would just point that out for the record so that if it happens again, we know we're at the 3 limit. And then I would stand on the motion to
And I think you're
continue.
right, Paul, right? The meeting that we did that was in October. We skipped the December meeting. So you're right. It happened in October.
Yeah.
It
I
was
think there's other
January
ac-
and then February.
There's
so
other
it's-
activity that's going on with this case, right?
I don't know if that's part of the record at this point.
Okay. Yeah, so let's make note that this is the 3rd, and if we need to discuss that.
Is it the 3rd or the 2nd?
Well, I think if my recollection is correct, I think it's probably actually the 3rd time this was continued. One was the result of, I think, a lack of quorum or the December didn't happen. But so that isn't really a continuing. My recollection is, other than the agreement that was reached the first time, which I think was a different circumstance because the board and the applicants had reached an agreement to do that, as opposed to the applicant coming to the board and saying, I know I'm scheduled, but I want to continue. I think they've done that twice already, and that this would be their 3rd. And I think that's why I make the motion. I think the continuance should be allowed.
And I think we allowed it without penalty, so.
Okay, so are we going to inform the applicant? This,
Well, I think they would know, and I think the bylaws for the ZBA are, publicly available, that 3 continuances are it, and then, you may have to start from scratch. Sometimes, though, too, there may be a technicality if they've actually begun the hearings and it gets continued because of more time needed or whatever. So it would be worth looking at that a little bit too, if it comes to that. But
I think if I may say also that I think it's important to look back on the records to see if it is in fact 3rd time
yeah,
and not a 2nd time. I understand what you're saying about the administrative decision and the other one were at 2 different times.
well, that's true.
So they were at 2 different times. So I believe that one of them could be 2 times and one only once.
I think.
So I think it could be, should be contingent on finding out the facts of exactly how many times it's been. If that makes sense.
And the other probably technicality of all this is, I think at one of the hearings, the application may have been accepted as complete. I don't know if that actually occurred. I have a vague recollection of that. If that's the case, then one could, determine that the hearing actually began in a timely manner, but the hearing, as opposed to an applicant coming in and saying, oh, I'm not ready with my application, I want a continuance. So it is a little different. And I think in light of that, granting this continuance is appropriate. And then between now and then, if we have to, we can look at the specific details of these and address them at the next session if needed.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
All in favor of the continuances?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then we'll move forward with the continuances. I'll let Robin know. Or we'll let Robin know where we stand on those. Anything else before we move on to the first case? Well, let's start the first case. The first case is case Z25-01. It's the owner is Jonathan and Amanda Norton. The agent is Susan Phillips Hungerford. If you folks are here, would you please move to this table? Whoever you'd like to have involved with the discussion, sure. And if you could, push the button in front of you so it'll turn green. Just as just as what this is for the audience, this is a special exception as requested for town zoning ordinance article 400, section 401.A.1. Permitted uses, a special exception is required to have an accessory dwelling unit in the Lakeside Residential District. And if you would, you're welcome to state your case.
You need my business card?
I don't need it, but I'm glad to take it. You spent the $7 to make them.
It's just, I know it's funny.
Excuse me again, on the application as complete, if we,
You have to accept the case. That's complete.
I would make a motion that we accept the application for case Z 25-01 as complete.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So typically what happens in these meetings is now would be the time that you would present to us your case. Then we'll have discussion on the board, and then we'll open up for public discussion as well
Okay,
before we move forward.
I'm an architect and I have a small firm in Peterborough, New Hampshire, and George Bogosian, who you might know, is a contractor locally, and he brought me in to help the Nortons with the renovation of their primary dwelling unit. And so I've been working on that with them. But then there was the garage was existing, as you know, you have photographs in your packet. So you've seen the garage. So I believe the garage was built in 2023. And it was a two-phase project. So the first part was getting the garage finished. And then the second phase was finishing the second floor. So at the time, I'm not sure if the intent was to turn it into an ADU. But with the extent of the project for the main house, which would include taking the kitchen out and putting in a new set of stairs, which would make the house uninhabitable. Client thought, oh, wouldn't it be great just to stay in the an ADU right next door, right there in the garage. So George went forward, and then all of a sudden it was like, nope, you have to go for, because it's in the Lakeshore District, we have to go before the board and get a special exception. So, as I understand it, in the special exception rules 520, well, actually, section 520, you have to meet section 319. So in section 319, under accessory dwelling unit, number 5, under B standards, in the Lakeshore Residential District, an accessory dwelling unit is permitted only within or attached to a single-family dwelling. So the project has, of course, 2 distinct structures, and the plan is to connect them with a connector so that we meet the intent and the spirit of the number 5. And you should also have in your packet many images of the existing garage, which is, the original structure was an A-frame with 2 different gables, pretty standard A-frame built in the 60s. And then the garage is a little bit, not quite as steep as the A-frame, but the gable ends face the street. And you have, well, I'll just go through requirements. So I'll go through the accessory dwelling unit standards. So basically, the proposed ADU is located on the second floor of the existing garage. And it has it meets the building code requirements, so it's fire rated. It has the insulation is correct. It has a fire rated doorway and access point. And then there's only one accessory dwelling unit on the lot. It's not an additional dwelling unit for the purpose of minimum lot size and density. And number 4, accessory dwelling is permitted only within attached or single family dwelling. That one doesn't apply because we're in the lake shore, so we go to 5. Shall have not more than 2 bedrooms, and the proposed ADU is a studio, so it's just one single room that has a little dining area and a separate bathroom, and that's it. So when you go down to the size, so the gross area is about 896 square feet, but that includes the eaves, which are, you can't even stand up in them, but the actual is 399 square feet. So that is less than the required 35% of the primary finished space. And as I understand that when you go in and out of an ADU, you don't want to go out the front door, you want to go out the side. So we have a side connecting the two. And when you look at the, excuse me, the garage, the site plan, there is plenty of room for 4 parking spaces, which is required. And they're way off the street, so there's no issue with that. And then so number 10 talks about the septic system. So the septic system is designed for the primary residence, and we are adding a bedroom. So the client has been in touch with the septic designer, and the septic designer has a letter in your packet that says, upon approval of this project, then he will forthwith, and that he didn't see any issues with that, with extending or developing the septic system.
So you currently have a 3-bedroom septic,
Yes.
right? And you're looking to go, if this gets approved, to a 4-bedroom septic,
Correct.
if I read it correct. Okay.
And number 11 is the primary single-family dwelling. It will be the primary, and the ADU shall be the residence of the property owner. So the idea is that while the house is under construction, the family will live in the ADU, but it's mostly my client and her husband, but they have 5 children. And so when they visit, that will be for overflow when they have children. So they needed more space because we know a A-frame is. And then 13 and 14, it will not be turned into a condominium, and it's not a multifamily townhouse situation. So I think I hit all of those for the accessory dwelling unit, section 319. So then when we go to section 520 for the special exception.
Excuse me,
Yes,
may I ask a question?
please.
So in the residence that you have now, how much square footage is in that residence?
I get these numbers, but I didn't.
Finished square footage?
2,574.5. And 35% of that is 901 square feet.
Okay.
May I, Mr. Chairman, a couple of questions. Do you have an elevation of the entire building with the garage?
I
see this one,
it's just a portion, right?
right. But do you have one that shows how all of the
Pieces
architectural structures will
go
look
together.
and together?
Well, you have the existing house.
I know there are pictures on the tax map, it looks like, of the building currently. Um, and there are elevations, architectural, yeah, and then there's some plans. And these, I think, depict, the connector, right?
Right, so basically you have this,
Oh, okay, that I didn't,
and then you have this. And you
oh,
could
okay, I
say
missed those.
what they look like together. Which would be this. So in the front, the distance between the garage and the house is less than 6 feet. And then and it as a
Right.
shape, it's about 20 feet in the back.
I see. And that's where the connector is.
Yes, is it more towards the back?
In the 35% square footage of the primary structure, which you calculated to be over 900 square feet, I think. 35% would be over 900, and you've got 896, and even less than that in the living space.
Right.
You account the eaves. But the other requirement on the total square footage is that it can't be more than 50% of the accessory structure.
Which is the garage.
Right,
Is that
so,
what it
so
is?
you, yeah, so you're okay on that too,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then the only other thing I would ask is, under 319B4, it says an accessory dwelling unit is permitted only within or attached to a single-family dwelling, which is what you're trying to address now. But then it says, or within an accessory structure on the same property as the single-family dwelling. So you're doing this in the garage, right? Which is an accessory structure, and it's on the same property. So why I don't think you even need to attach it.
Well, when I was reviewing this to get ready for today.
Yeah.
I went through 4 and I'm like, oh, we don't have to attach them. And then I went to 5, but because it's in the Lakeshore Residential, we have to. It has to be attached.
Oh, 5, let me just look at that more carefully.
And
I got you. No, because you're in Lakeshore Residential.
Lakeshore,
You're
yeah.
absolutely correct.
standard says an ADU is allowed by right, but you have to go for a special exception in the Lakeshore.
In the Lakeshore, right.
You want the custom? No one.
Chairman?
Please, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you. Can we go back to the square footage again?
Yes,
Okay. So I'm looking at the tax map of the existing home,
yes,
and you provided that for us.
yes. Which is.
No, you have provided it for us. So maybe I'm reading this incorrectly. So I see first floor at 1,289 square feet.
Cheap, cheap, Austin.
I just want to make sure that I'm reading it correctly.
Well. So I have the first floor at 1474.25. But I included the connector. Which is 150 square feet.
Okay. Which doesn't exist yet, but when it does
Exactly.
exist, it will be part of the dwelling.
So I have a, let me show you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, because. Okay,
So I did. So. This is a deck, so I did that space, and that space. There is a little. Funny little room out there that's. 9 by 6.
so, but the tax record shows 1,289 on the first floor. And the attic finished space is 1,065.
Oh, okay, I have 1,000.
I'm just going by what the tax, that, I'm just going by what the tax records say. Okay, have you got a different plan?
Because here's this part, because I went and measured the building. And so here's the space.
Yeah, but the basement is a crawl space.
Yeah.
It's not finished. Okay,
Yep.
okay.
So yeah, so here's that space, which is the sunroom, and then the living room is this rectangle here.
Yeah,
And here's this long skinny here, which is like 15.5. And then here's this bathroom that's 9.5 times 6.5.
so what's not on here is the bathroom. Okay, so that's what's not on here. Okay. So, and the bathroom is how much square footage?
61.
61 square feet. So if I add 1289 and 1,065, that's 1,300 and,
2354. 35% of it is 706 feet. If you do the math out.
But if I
But
may,
the, but the
then when
seven
you,
hundred and six minus the 4 foot of eve on both sides times 24 is that the garage has got to be 24 foot deep, right?
Yeah. It's 28 by 32.
Yeah, so there's 28 foot at least by 4 feet. Yeah, I'm with you, Frank, where you're going with it, but I don't think the math follows your argument.
just want to make sure the math works. So that,
Right, so
the other part, though, I think is important is when you calculate the total square footage upon which to base the 35%, you got to add the connector, the addition, because it's
not
going.
there, it doesn't exist.
No, but it's going to exist as part of the primary structure. In other words, that's one of the reasons they're building the connector. The connector is going to serve two purposes. It's going to connect the ADU.
So that's 8 by 15, so that gives us an additional 81, almost 100.
Yeah,
100 square feet.
yeah.
So
we're very,
collectively, we're gonna have enough there for the, how much square footage?
706 roughly.
706. So we're okay if we add the
The connector.
connector.
Yeah,
And even though the tax map doesn't have the bathroom on there,
right.
they're
It
showing
exists.
us, they're
Right,
showing us that it exists.
right.
So
I think it's all good.
we okay with that?
I think so.
Good. Good.
it's not a lot of wiggle room there, but
Some of the reasons we're asking these questions, is we want to make sure that we put it on the record. So if someone ever challenges it, we address this situation in its entirety. And I just want to, I'm not trying to be negative towards it. I'm just trying to make sure that we're correct in what we're doing. Okay?
no, I totally understand because I was on my own town zoning boards in Dublin for 15 years and I was the chair for 7. So I was on that side and I know the drill, how specific you have to be.
Okay, so we're comfortable with the square footage
Yes.
issue. Okay, great.
And I think if we look at it, and thank you for laying it out for us. If we look at it, the doors that are, so basically, we're not changing the view from the street very much because the doors going into the both units, both sides, are kind of hidden from the road anyhow, because
Right.
even though you don't want it.
Connected towards the rear.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I may. Okay, so the zoning officer has indicated that and as you've indicated, that it's a 3-bedroom septic system design. Now we're going to be going to a 4th bedroom. The latest septic approval for construction is dated 6/9/2009. Does the applicant plan on addressing or increasing or going for a different septic design?
Yes,
So if we were to approve this, we would have to approve this with the
Conditional.
condition, okay, just so that you're aware of that.
yes,
That if we do approve it, that there would have to be a condition that there would be a state septic approval.
correct.
Okay,
Not, if I may, not only just that, an ADU acceptable septic system And, in other words, not meaning just a 4-bedroom septic system,
An ADU.
in ADU compliant septic system.
And even though I'm an architect, I'm unfamiliar with that term. As a septic design, is it,
Well, that's kind of what this is spelled out for, not necessarily just a 4-bedroom design. Which would mean if an ADU unit would be that the tank size or flow would be larger than just your
Oh, I
average
understand.
4-bedroom.
got it, because there's two kitchens. Yeah, there's more
Right,
movement
it would
in the
actually,
water
so
system.
that would be a condition that we would put on
okay.
here. For
Understood.
the compliance of the septic system.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
Please.
The septic design that includes the ADU would be part of the permitting process when you apply for a new permit for this update.
Yeah.
So all of this will be taken care of as part of the permit
Oh, part of the
for
building.
the ADU, yeah,
Oh, for the ADU.
Perfect.
and the septic that goes with it.
Thank you, Norma.
You're welcome.
And if I may, one last question. Did you see the what is it, department reviews from the fire department? The requesting that, I think it was windows be of a certain,
Oh, for egress.
from the deputy fire chief, right? So smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, of course, as required by statute, then egress windows required per NFPA 101. And
Yes.
windows shall be minimally 20 inches wide by 24 inches tall and have at least 5.7 feet of clear opening. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I? Sorry. In the garage, as it sits today, is there electricity in the garage now?
Do you have electric door openers for the garage? Oh, yes.
So there's electricity. Is there any plumbing in any bathrooms in the,
The plumbing's been approved as well.
I think the
there's a bathroom in the garage?
on the second-
Oh, on the second.
No, no. Is there a bathroom in the garage?
No,
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 there's no bathroom in the garage, no shower. or-
No.
just on the
Okay,
second.
proposed.
but that's proposed. There's nothing up there now.
Think when the construction was happening, the roughing was happening, and I think that was the transition with the new code enforcement. But I understand this was before I got on the job, so I think there might be some rough, and so then the project was like, wait, stop. We have to go through this process. So it's in process, but it's not.
Okay, so I saw a floor plan
Yes,
of the proposed floor plan. Okay, that is all roughed in?
I think it is a rough.
Okay,
But
Is
I haven't
the-
been inside.
okay, I'm asking the question, is there a bathroom
On the second,
on the floor
Constructed, like with a toilet.
constructed? Is there a working bathroom on the second floor? No, okay. Just roughed in.
Yeah, yes, that's what I understand where everything stopped.
In other words, it's still open.
It's.
Is
Yeah.
you have
Oh,
rough pipe, plumbing,
Pipings and-
drainage
You got some
inside, but nothing
electrical-
is connected as of.
Correct.
Right. Cool.
Chairman, may I make a comment?
Please.
The garage has all of these contents in there already, but it didn't match the permit that I had in place. They said there would be finished space, but the finished space turned into an ADU.
Oh, right, that's what I.
So that sort
yeah.
of tripped us into the next phase, which was coming here and then doing a new permit
Right,
for what's
correct.
actually happening. But I believe a lot of the pieces are in fact in place. Whether they're still in place, I don't know, but they were there about 2 months ago when I was there.
But there wasn't a stall shower or anything constructed, but just the rough for it?
Everything looked pretty close to completion when I was there.
Oh,
from what I
okay.
remember. Yeah.
but the electric and the plumbing was approved.
What was in there was approved, yes.
The electric and the plumbing. Okay, I'm lost. The electric and the plumbing was approved for what?
I don't know, was it the three?
I need to talk to Norma about that. From what I understand, the first phase was signed off on. So it was a garage, a working garage, and then there were stairs and it was drywalled. And then the second floor project started like some time had gone by. Maybe the summer of 24. And then code enforcement was reviewing the part.
Well, I recognize the renovation was not just finished space or a playroom or whatever was supposed to be up there. It was actually an ADU. So we had to
Okay.
stop the process and then put it on pause, go to the ZBA for a special exception, and then you need a new permit for what you're actually doing
Right.
after it gets approved.
And I also understand that there might have been, the original permit weren't able to find the permit that listed what the project was, which I don't know, but what it was originally. You know, was it originally pulled as a garage or was it?
It was just originally a garage, yeah.
Garage, okay. Because all right,
So Norma, to everything you know, this is the process they're following is the process.
Correct.
Correct. So we're at the right step in here now, whether we approve the ADU or not,
Right.
with the exception.
And after it gets approved and gets a special exception, then they need a new permit for the space that they're creating,
correct.
which will involve all of the pieces. It'll include all the safety inspections at the end from the fire department's concern, and it'll address the septic design as well.
And Paul, they're gonna also need a approval from the selectmen, right? To be able to use it or no?
No.
No, okay.
So I've gone through the 319, and then I was going to go through the 520 special exception, which you have the facts that support the request. That there's a survey, you have the survey. As per table of uses, number 2, an ADU is allowed by special exception if all the requirements for an ADU 319 are met. Factual evidence is not found that property values in the district will be reduced to incompatible uses. And I described that the ADU is located in an existing garage. It's not affecting, it's not a new build. It's within the neighborhood vernacular. And the abutters have been personally notified by the owners, and we have an abutter here, and I believe you might have some letters
We do.
that are in the record supporting the project. Yep. And there's 2 existing driveways on the site, and there's room for 4 vehicles, as noted in the 319. And that the garage is well back from the property and pedestrians will not be affected, you know, by walking down the street and people going in and out of the driveway. And the ADU shall meet the requirements of the IRC, which I think right now we're 2021, or are you 2021? See. And the building codes of Alton Bay. And we discussed number 7, there's adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal. So as I understand that, it's not just a 4-bedroom, it's for the extra use of an ADU.
And we'll set that as a condition.
Yeah, and that'll be part of the condition
And we'll
approval.
deal with the setbacks separately in a second. but-
Yes.
But at this point, if do you have other things that you want to present or are you completed?
No, I just was, I read through the master plan and that it was consistent with the master plan, you know, keeping the rural village distinction.
Right,
And I believe that's the end of my presentation.
perfect. Are there any other questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll open it up to public input. Would anyone like to step forward in either in favor or opposed? Thank you.
What's your name, sir?
If you could, sir, then I gotta ask you to come up to the microphone. I'm sorry. You gotta push the
Put
button
it
a
on.
little
You gotta
while.
put it on.
Because the battery,
Push,
Yeah, it's not going on.
it's not going on.
battery's gone, so.
I have
in favor of the project. I've known the Nortons since they moved there. And I think Mr. Norton needs relief. He has 6 women living with him, and getting into that bathroom is a real challenge. No
And the
offense.
bathroom.
Yeah. One thing though, that I don't know if this is appropriate, but when you turned on the recording, you said February the 2nd as opposed to January the 2nd. I don't know if that makes any difference with the proceedings.
If you're not gonna go back on the 6-woman comment, I'll.
Okay.
I'll go
Okay.
back and correct
All
my.
right. So other than
Apologize
that,
for the line.
I think it's not gonna impede anybody's sensibilities in the neighborhood. They're great people, great family, and if they meet the requirements set forth by the board, we're all for it.
And your name and what street?
I
what-
live
what-
across the street, 329 Brass Side Road,
Great.
been there since 56.
Can you give us a name again to the microphone?
Keen, Keen.
1856 or 1956?
1956. 1956. I thought
Okay.
that was the area because he did work for Steve Parker on adjacent
I do.
property, so it's a challenge. Brass Side Road is a challenge for any of you, so that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's 1956. Does that mean you?
Go ahead, sure.
Yeah, please.
We have one more.
If you would, before you start, give us your name.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Brad Russo. I own 2 properties on Prask Side Road. Nice to meet you. You have I mean, it's seemingly a perfectly legitimate request and it makes a lot of sense. My only issue with these ADUs, particularly on Trask Side Road, are sort of, there's a lot of issues going on right now with them. Specifically the septic system requirements. So the plan that I saw here was a 450-gallon plan. I think for an ADU 4-bedroom, it's going to need to be over 600. So I just wanted to make sure if it meets that, I certainly would support it. It doesn't change the character of the street. But I think from a precedent standpoint, specifically if it doesn't meet that 600-gallon plus system, we'd be really treading on, territory that's difficult, the road. But otherwise, yeah, I think it sort of makes sense, but that's a key requirement in my mind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have you been there since 1956? No?
Any other comment from the board after having heard the, no?
Well, just for the record, as far as anyone else in favor, there are two people, butters that did put some letters in, and I'll just read them off quickly for the sake of the record. From James and Nancy Banks, we own the property located at 356 Trackside. Our property abuts the property owned by John and Amanda Norton. We are sending this letter in support of the Norton's desire to build a garage and a fully functional apartment above the garage. We are familiar with the floor plan in the Norton's existing home, as well as the plans and specifications for the proposed garage and apartment above the garage, including the plans for a fully functional bedroom and kitchen. We're also familiar with the location of their current and proposed septic, if needed. Finally, we know exactly where the existing property line is between our properties and where the Norton property is located. The proposed garage and the apartment above the garage will not in any way negatively impact our property. We join with the Nortons in requesting the town to grant so-called exception to the Nortons and allow them to build, and leaves their information. That's from James and Nancy Banks. And one other one that was in support was from Marisa Bono and Richard Garino. We're writing in support of the Norton's appeal to have an ADU approved. We've spoken about the importance of the additional space for their children and guests. We're direct abutters and would not be impacted by the addition of the ADU. We hope that the Nortons will be able to move forward with their build with the approval of the board. So that's it for in favor. I just want to make sure that was on the record. So I don't know if there's anybody not in position.
There was nothing that I received that was opposition. So thank you for that, Tom. Anything else before we go to the worksheet? Pardon me, Paul?
No, it's anybody against, anybody speaking?
I had asked.
Oh, you did that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to. Right, and one of the things that we're looking at on this is that we put the requirement as a condition that if it gets approved, that it's a condition that they have the ADU level of septic.
So we'll close it to the public.
Yeah, we'll close the public input at this point, go to the worksheet. Acceptance, so the worksheet is what I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. A plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section 520B. The answer in that case, I believe, is yes.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Next category, Tom.
Appropriateness, the specific site, I believe, is an appropriate location for this use. It meets the criteria spelled out in Section 319 and 520.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
Value. There has been no demonstrative factual value that it has been found that the property values in the district will be reduced due to the incompatible land and uses. First and foremost, the applicant's property with that garage and the existing home is an appropriate and is in very good order. This really will not change the value of anything because it's all interior work being performed. So I can not see where it would reduce any value in terms of incompatibility with the abutting landowners.
I agree.
I agree that factual evidence is not found that the property value will be reduced due to incompatible land uses. First of all, there is no incompatible land use. The use is consistent. We've had no one speak or no evidence to establish that property values would be adversely affected or reduced. And in fact, if anything, it's probably going to increase or enhance property values with this kind of it's a very good project.
Yeah, and I don't feel qualified to speak to whether the property values will increase or decrease, but I do agree that no factual evidence was presented that the property values would reduce.
I agree.
There's no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable fact. In fact, we've had letters of support, people here this evening that are in support. As long as the ADU compliance and all code enforcement is all met, septic system designs for ADU are met, there are no other objections.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agree.
I agree with the following.
There is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including the location and design of access ways and off-street parking. There's nothing about this project that's going to in any way impact streets or access ways or off-street parking, or pedestrian or vehicular traffic.
Agreed.
Agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
With the septic as a condition of approval, I believe that there will be adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities will be provided to ensure proper operation of the proposed use of the structure.
Agree.
I agree.
I agreed as well.
I agree for those reasons.
There is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supplies. And the area is fine. And as previously mentioned, and we've covered a few times, this is all based upon the conditions from NHDES in regards to the size of the septic, specifically for an ADU. So I believe it is adequate.
I know. I'm reading.
Sorry.
It takes me a little bit of time. Hold on. Yeah.
Somebody wake Frank up.
I was trying to wake him up and he said, no, he knew.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree as well.
I agree.
Agreed.
The proposed use intent, the proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit and ordinance and the intent of the master plan. The ADU is, this is absolutely consistent with what our master plan has and the spirit of the ordinances that we have within the town. The applicant is making every effort to make sure that, that it will comply with the ADU septic system, and it will be one of the conditions. But this is exactly what the master plan and the spirit of the ordinances have suggested for this town.
I agree, and I'll add that this does maintain the rural character and of the Lakeshore residential area, and for the district.
I agree and would add that this application meets all of the required criteria and therefore is consistent with the ordinances and the intent of the master plan.
Having read the master plan at depth, as it sounds like you have as well, I agree.
I agree.
Having completed the special exception workshop, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the special exception for case Z 25-1 with the condition of following all local and state codes and septic design requirements for an ADU.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Just so I got it right, Paul, could I read back to you what you?
I'm sorry?
What you stated, can I read back to you what you stated, so we'll get it right?
Yes.
So we'll approve the special exception for this case with the condition, noting the number, with the condition of following all local and state codes for appropriate septic design. Good,
Yes, but
and town zoning.
I did mention ADU
ADU
requirements.
requirements.
I'd just like to add, for the sake of the board, you passed unanimously all 8 criteria, but the case with the abutters is phenomenal. We've had many cases come before us and there hasn't been proper communication and it's become contentious at times with many cases in the past. So this was done very well, Susan, and to the Nortons, there you go.
You're approved.
So your court,
So, thank you.
equitable waiver of dimensional requirement.
You do. That's
Yes.
our next case. So
That's
Oh.
next.
do you need a break?
Yeah, very nice job. Thank you.
Let's move forward then. Case number Z 25-02. This is, the owner is Jonathan and Amanda Norton, the agent Susan Phillips Hungerford. The request here is for an equitable waiver is requested for town zoning ordinance section 327.A.2 for an existing structure within the front setback. Would you give us a moment so that the board, has the board reviewed the case?
I'll make a motion to approve the application for case Z 25-02 as complete.
I'll second it.
Can I, in the discussion, could I just to accept the application as complete as opposed to approve it, because then we just reach the end result.
Okay.
Just changing the legal language, that's all, trying to be
You know,
In
specific.
fact, Paul, you're right. I think we're actually only accepting it, not even as complete, but clean enough for discussion.
Right.
Yeah,
But either way, let's move,
Thank you, Paul.
let's move forward.
So.
Are we
that
good
was
to move
so
forward?
kind of you.
well, thank you, I appreciate,
Oh, no,
I like being
well,
appreciated.
break.
I hate to ask you specifically, Paul, but are you okay with moving forward? Everybody else seems to be. Okay, let's move forward.
I'm good, I'm good.
If you would, discuss the case and where you guys are at with this.
Yeah, so as I understand it, when the garage was constructed, there were some boulders and there was some issue with trying to get the correct turning radius to get in and out and to stay behind the setback. So the contractor thought everything was great. And then when we had to come before the board for the ADU, and we had to have a new survey done because we were using a previous survey, actually done by the same people, it was discovered that the building did not, in fact, it moved over the setback by, I believe, 12, like a foot, 12 inches on the corner, as you can see in the document provided, dated. Well, it's actually, but, so it was the intent was not to go over the setback and I think there were rocks involved. So I don't know if there was blasting, but just trying to maneuver between the rocks. So it was not intentional. And so that's why we come before the board to ask for a dimension. And I haven't done the math to see what percentage of the building, but I'm thinking it's maybe not even 2% of the building. Maybe 5, even 2% of the building is over the setback. And it's not the whole building, it's just a corner. And one of the things that was interesting that was brought up by Norma, I believe, was when we brought everything to her, when Amanda brought everything in, is that just that where the property line and where the road edge, there's a big right of way there. And not that we would take this up tonight or maybe this century, but the idea is that the right of way and the edge of the property line is maybe 50 feet. So who owns that land? Does the property line go to the edge of the road, or is the property line there, or there are standard right of ways for the size of the road. And I think it's designed from the center line of the road and goes out both ways. So anyway, there's a lot of extra land there, which might help you in your decision making.
I think it's unusual to see that the property line where the deed says it goes from this point to the right of way. And then when it's surveyed, there's about a 30-foot swath of land here that is supposed to be the road.
It's town land. you
It's
think,
kind
or
of
is-
dramatic that the road is still that far away. So there is a big chunk of land here all along the front that seems to be the right of way and
Right.
not the Norton's property for whatever
Right.
reason.
So the good news is the Norton's already paying taxes on that. The bad news is the town's not getting those taxes.
Mr. Chair?
Please,
may I
go.
ask? Please. Okay, thank you. So how much how much square footage would you say that we're talking about in terms of if the setback line, how much square footage is in the setback,
In violation.
okay, of the existing garage, would you say? Approximately. It seems to me like can't be much more than 10 square feet,
Just about to do the.
but maybe I'm,
No, I think, it's one time. 5.
5 square feet. Yeah. And I was right, that it
the base
couldn't be
height.
more than 10
10
square
square feet.
feet. It's just really this corner. Yeah,
So
right.
12.
And the distance from Trask Road to the existing building, if I'm reading it correctly, is 56 feet.
Right, which includes that unusual right of way.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. That's my only questions. I wanted to make sure we have it on there on the record. So it's only approximately 5 feet,
Right.
5 square feet.
And I just did that math really fast, so.
Yeah, but that would be good if this were a variance application, okay? This is a equitable waiver application. This
So-
is so now what I want to find out is,
Well, what would you like to know?
when was the garage built?
The drawings are dated 9/23. So the building permit would have been pulled, I'm assuming it was built in the winter of 23. Yes.
And then did the structure as built comply with the structure as depicted in the building permit application?
It did when I
Okay.
have,
So all I'm trying to get at is that the town went out and approved it as is, even though it had encroached into the setback by a foot and a total of maybe 5 square feet. But the town went and approved it, and the applicant thought it was correct and didn't know that it wasn't. So all of the criteria for equitable waiver, where everybody just kind of did it and nobody did it intentionally, and it was just kind of a small mistake, those criteria seem to be present. That's how that happened. And we had a code enforcement officer at the time that probably issued a building permit for it, right?
We thought it was significantly back just because of,
The way it looks out
I
there.
mean, it's so back.
Right, right,
It's so,
right,
and that's how far back we had to put it.
right,
So we didn't think this would ever be an issue.
right.
so
So Paul, we're trying to make a point?
No,
He
it
keeps
just,
clarifying.
I'm still trying to figure out what he's talking about.
I get what he's saying. He wanted to clarify.
yeah, the
There was no
criteria.
intent.
There was no intent.
There was no.
Yeah, the
That's what he
criteria
said.
for
That's what he said.
equitable waiver is different than like a variance analysis, but, and we know now that, you know, the town went out and thought everything was okay, the property owner thought everything was okay, and for understandable reasons. So, and I think when that happens, you know, that's what the criteria address, so.
I mean,
Thank you.
they could have put the garage into the lake, maybe, and maybe then they would have been behind the
Then
setback.
everybody would have known.
Anything else from the board before it open up to the public?
No, not from me.
Would anybody from the public like to address this issue or make a comment to the issue? Either in favor or opposed, please. If you could state your name again and that address.
Brad Russo, Trask Side Road. My comment is just so, I'm sure this was an honest mistake, is to just code enforcement. The importance of code enforcement in this situation is the issue that I have. And if we don't have any code enforcement around where this is, even though it's an honest mistake, we rely on code enforcement on the street for virtually everything. So we're relying on code enforcement going forward on things like this to be on top of things like this. So for the record, now that the condition has been approved for your ADU, I personally don't think the septic would be met, unfortunately. I'm not a septic designer or an engineer, but having put 2 septics on the street, I think that's going to be problematic for you. So code enforcement is my issue here, not with you or anybody else on the street. So I'm just hoping that we have the ability to watch this as these things go forward.
Absolutely agree with you, sir, but help me with why you think that the update of the septic would be a problem.
Well, a 4-bedroom system is going to need to be over 600, and I don't think the perk test on that land. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an engineer again, but I don't think it's going to perk to more than 600, which is what's needed for an ADU. The 2009 system, I think, was 450. That plan. Yeah, the one that was submitted, I didn't bring it up. I think is 450. So, yeah. So 3-bedroom. Again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a septic designer. I just put 2 systems in the last several years, and from my standpoint, the land on the road won't support I think it's 675 that's needed for an ADU. Again, don't quote me, but I think it's 300 for a 2-bedroom, 450 for a 3-bedroom, and then 4-bedroom ADU is over 600, 675, I think. Do you know, Norma, offhand? Or? Yeah. I just don't know, but I wanted to bring that up. Now that it's been approved and conditioned, we're just gonna rely on you. The street's gonna rely on you to do the right thing. Of course, yes, the state will.
Yeah.
Will. Rubber stamp
But
it
you're
or
still of the
not.
mindset that if we meet the right requirements,
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, but if they're not met, we
we'll be stopped.
want to make sure, yeah, we're watching. Well, we didn't in this case. They got built 1.5 feet or into the right of way.
Well, the condition for approval here is a septic design that's approved by the DES.
Absolutely.
Once that's done, it's done, and the town doesn't control that. On this, the equitable waiver, everybody thought there wasn't anything to enforce because there was an error of a foot on the setback because of all the totality of circumstances that have been described. So we're now to rule on whether anybody did this intentionally or that's our criteria.
Understand
Yeah.
completely, but we still want to be right.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
my.
absolutely.
Two separate cases, but we're.
Understand.
Understandable.
We understand where you're coming
Right.
from. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Anyone
I do
else?
support the equitable waiver. 100%.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Input? Okay, then we'll close it for public input. Anything else from the board? The worksheet?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Norma has a comment, so.
On August 30th to 2023, we received a building permit for a garage. And the plans submitted by the contractor show the garage placed on the lot with a 25-foot setback in reference to this property line that was sort of a surprise, but was quite a few feet up the road. But according to his plan, he's building the garage 25 feet from this property line. So that was probably believed and maybe not necessarily measured on site. Prior to my employment here.
Thank you for that clarification. And I think we still are in the same position. Anything else from the board before we go to the worksheet? Let's go to the worksheet. After reviewing the application and hearing all the evidence and testimony regarding the appeal request before them, the Town of Alton Zoning Board of Adjustment has determined the following based on these criteria. Statement A, that the violation was not noticed or discovered by any owner, former owner, owner's agent, or representative, or municipal official until after a structure in violation had been substantially created, or until a lot or other division of land in violation had been subdivided by conveyance of a bona fide purchaser for value. And I think that is the case. So yes. I read that correctly. In agreement, Tom?
Yes, I agree.
I agree.
I agree with that.
I agree.
Agreed.
Okay, number 2, that the violation was not an outcome of ignorance of the law or ordinance, failure to inquire, obfuscation, misrepresentation, or bad faith on the part of any owner, owner's agent, or representative, but was instead caused by either a good faith error in measurement or calculation made by an owner or owner's agent, or by an error in ordinance interpretation or applicability made by a municipal official in the process of issuing a permit over which that official had authority. We certainly have some clarity from Norma in regards to specifically what happened in this case. And we understand why that took place. We don't understand the lack of the measurement properly being done, but I do believe, yes, it was not an outcome of ignorance of the law or ordinance.
For all those same reasons, I agree.
I agree as well.
I agree.
Agreed.
3, the physical and dimensional violation does not constitute a public or private nuisance, nor diminish the value of other properties in the area, nor infer with or adversely affect any present or permissible future uses of any of the such property. The building encroaches the setback by approximately 5 square feet, which is immeasurable in comparison to this 56 feet from the road to the, the building in question, the garage. It will not diminish any of the value of other properties in the area, nor interfere with any adverse effect of future uses of any of the such property at all.
I agree.
I agree, and I would add that I think it was important to put on the record that this was such a small, a total of 5 square feet of that was, is very significant.
I agree, but I also agree with the comment of Mr. Russo, and I believe it's a valuable point that accuracy should be a very important factor for this board, and the town should demand it. But with that said, I think the impact of this is negligible, and I hope you agree. So I agree with the comment. We should move forward.
I agree.
Due to the degree of the past construction or investment made in the ignorance of the facts constituting the violation, the cost of the correction so far outweighs any public benefit to be gained, that it would be inequitable to require the violation to be corrected. This is and I believe, yes, that this violation was passed by not knowing exactly how many square feet it was that was actually over, being only 5 square feet. I believe that this would be more detrimental to the owner of having to do anything different than the equitable waiver.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
With that said, unanimous decision of the board to approve this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to
Here.
next case. Case Z 25-03. The owner of Bruce and Victoria Kennedy and the agent for them, Prospect Mountain Survey, Paul Zugo. And if you would, thank you. You give us a moment just to review, board to review the doc.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept case Z 25-3 as complete.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
I second.
Aye.
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 Unopposed? Okay, then we'll move forward. You guys have your microphones on. This is a request for, the variance is requested for Town Zoning Ordinance Article 400, Section 452-B, restrictions governing use in a rural zone. So it's your floor.
We're here just because of road frontage.
If you could, and I hate to do this to you, but can you state your name and address?
Paul Zusko. Here representing Kennedy. We applied for a subdivision and was told that we would have to come here in order to get a variance for road frontage. So your ordinance for rule says 2 acres, 200 feet of road frontage. That's it. But If you look up, I thought I knew what road frontage was till I looked at the definition, then it said it had to be in Alton. Part of this lot is in Gilmington. And we need the road frontage that's in Gilmington for one of the lots, to make the 200 feet of road frontage. That's why we're here.
Any questions from the board?
If I may, so this is in the Christian Conference Center. The
No.
buildings are, no,
No,
that's
no.
just the applicant. Okay, good. So I was wondering how we got to Guilford.
Avery Hill Road.
Oh, right, okay.
You got the right one? You got the right one?
Hey, Paul, when you went through this, how did you, because I went through this, I thought.
Three
pretty detailed.
25-3.
Where did you see the requirement that it had to be in all? I couldn't find
Definitions,
The definitions.
I don't have.
definition for road frontage.
Mhm.
I don't have it.
This is the lot.
Excuse my chicken.
That's all right. No, no.
The only place that says that it has to be in Alton.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah, I don't think it even says it. Let me go into the zoning book.
Thank you.
So, Paul.
It has to be in, the 200 feet has to be in, it says it has to be in Alton. But you need 200 feet in Gilmington to subdivide it.
I already spoke with Gilmington, and because we're not altering the lot, we don't have to go to Gilmington for anything,
Or anything.
We're not altering the parcel or the part of the lot that's in Gilmington, we're not touching. His driveway is in Alton. But the only place in your ordinance that states it has to be in Alton is in definition.
Roughly existing in the town of Walton. So the definition on frontage on the street here, if you don't mind, I'll read it. The distance along the front line or right-of-way line of a class 5 highway or better lawfully existing in the town of Alton or as approved by the planning board measured in feet. The minimum frontage distance shall be contiguous. Each lot shall meet minimum frontage requirements as specified in Article 400 zoning.
That sounds like, to me, that planning board could have approved that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it sounds like to me too.
That's why I'm not sure why we're here.
Better
Yeah.
lawfully existing in the town of Alton.
Planning board.
It's not, it sounds like from the definition, it should be 200 feet of a lawful road in
That's
Alton
fine.
or as approved by the planning board.
That's. Think so. too.
So I'm not so sure. No, but if we think about that though, any lot that you would try to create in Alton, a size lot like this for residential, that would be under 200 feet of road frontage, you'd have to go and get a variance for that.
Correct,
Right.
but
But you're not under 200
No.
feet of road frontage.
No.
You're on a lawful road of, you meet the 200 feet of road frontage on a lawful road that is either in Alton or that is approved by the planning board. So maybe if you didn't get approval by the planning board, you'd have to come in for a variance. Because then you wouldn't meet the frontage because you wouldn't meet the definition of frontage. So that 200 feet either has to be on a lawful road in Alton or as approved by the planning board. If you get approved by the planning board, you've met the 200 feet frontage. If you don't, then I think you need a variance.
we have the road, the minimum road frontage for both lots.
Yeah.
It's just one lot has
Right.
most of it in Gilmington. And it's all contiguous.
But I'm saying for that one lot that has some in Gilmanton and some in Alton, if the planning board approves it, which they have the right to do, then I don't think you need a variance. That's just me talking out loud and hearing the definition.
So today, in speaking with the planning administrator, Jess, and with Robin, there's no precedent for this. They've not run into this issue prior. So I guess, Paul, are you suggesting that as a group, we should not be the ones making the decision on this?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, one of the first things I think we always look at with an application is the application required? Does the applicant really need to be here? And from what I heard from the application was they're here because the definition requires that the road frontage be in Alton, but then when you read the definition, it says it's 200 feet of road frontage. They have that on a lawful road in the town of Alton, or as approved by the planning board. It's in the disjunctive. It can be one or the other. So they haven't failed on the 200 feet frontage requirement yet. Because if they go to the planning board and the planning board says, we're good with this, the fact that some of it's in Gilmanton, we don't care, here's your approval, then they don't need us. If the planning board for some reason said, no, we don't approve that frontage, now he's got a lot that doesn't have 200 feet in Alton and doesn't have planning board approval. So now he's got to come in and see if he can get a variance for what frontage is in Alton. And we would take into consideration that there is still 200 feet, some of which is in Gilmanton, but I think it's not unnecessary at this stage.
So your answer was yes.
I'm sorry,
So
yes.
we shouldn't say.
He's a lawyer.
So I could restate, I don't want to restate everything, but if I could restate, we want to suggest that these guys take this with the planning board.
Yes.
I think we could move that based on these, the definition in the zoning ordinance and so forth. We could make a finding that the application for variance is not required in this case at this point. And if we make that finding, we've made a decision on the record and they can go to planning board. To satisfy that definition, he's got to go to the planning board and get approval because he doesn't have 200 feet in Halton. So the only other option is to go get it from the planning board.
And unfortunately, I guess then that's where we're going with this, isn't it? So does someone like to want to
Is
make?
that your motion?
I
So moved.
I would make the
You get
motion.
paid by the word.
No. But I would,
But for the sake
Yeah.
of, excuse me, for the sake of the applicant and now going
And being
ahead another board, do you feel it would behoove us to just go through the variance paperwork on this?
Then we don't have to come back.
That's what I'm saying. And to save this now another month, they have to wait to go forward for the planning board. This is a very unique situation, but do you feel based upon your knowledge with the zoning board, because it was all planning board. In other words, if so was approved here for our variance, the hands are washed of it. It's done, we move forward.
It was the
Do you think-
planner who told us to come here first.
the only thing about that is we would be applying the variance criteria to this situation, which can be somewhat strict to meet. And if we deny it because he hasn't met it, then
Okay,
that would be bad.
Yeah.
Because then he doesn't get it.
okay.
And,
Better to go.
but I don't know, maybe if you get denied, then you go to the planning board and say, I didn't really need then why did you do it? You know, so we'd have to view these facts based on the criteria of a variance. And, you know, I haven't even thought of it in that context, but as we go through the criteria, if, you know, what's the substantial hardship? For example, you know, you've got more feet in Gilmanton and you have the ability to go to the planning board and get an approval. So have you met the hardship criteria? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. I have no idea what we would ultimately think once we go through the entire application and hear the thing. But the definition is what put me in this frame of mind because it seemed clear to me that you've got the 200 feet on a lawful road, not all in the town of Alton, but, or approved by the planning board. I don't know how we deal with that.
Mr. Chairman, so Paul, what did the planner say? What did, how did she come about saying that you need to get a variance first? What was the commentary there?
She said that it had to be an alternate. And we needed a variance.
But you also
That the
said,
road, that the road frontage we were using for the one lot, most of it was in Gilmington. And that we needed, she didn't tell me it was in definitions. She just told me we had to come to variance. So I went through the whole zoning. And the only place I found it was in definitions.
Okay, so she suggested, because there's only 59 feet in
Alton.
Alton, that you needed to go for a variance based on the fact that there was only 59 feet in Alton.
Correct.
Isn't the case that you have over 259 feet in Alton?
With that,
You actually have over 200, in right now you have an existing one lot, right?
one lot.
And it has more than 215 whatever feet of frontage.
Yes.
So if I read this definition, because it does refer, Paul, maybe this is just my interpretation of it, but the definition throws us back to Article 400 of the zoning district regulations, as long as the front lot line or right-of-way line, which is what we're talking about, Class V highway or better, which we're talking about, lawfully exists in the town of Alton. Now, is that in reference to the existing lot or the split lot? Do you have what I'm looking at, the definition?
Let me see. No, I don't have the,
Well, I think you guys might have a point here. We can,
yeah.
if you look on the frontage street, I can't tell if the requirement on that is for the existing lot or once you split it. I gotta believe it must be to the existing because we haven't split the lots yet.
Okay, frontage street.
The lot we plan to cut off,
I'm with you.
the whole frontage is in Alton.
Yeah, exactly. And it's 260 feet plus or minus, probably more, right?
300, over 300 feet frontage.
Yeah, there you go.
60 feet. Yeah, 360 feet.
So I can't tell if that, I'm assuming that it goes to the two lots after, but that doesn't say. All it says is refer to Article 400, which is really where the definition, and there's nothing in there about it all being in the town of Alton. I guess I'm going down Tom's path that maybe this is something we can
So you're
resolve.
trying to say your ordinance contradicts
Well,
itself?
they wanna get going with the
Well, it contradicts, but it's not clear. Sure.
It may be their choice.
I guess what I'm trying to do is save a meeting. If we
Yeah,
can.
no, I get it. I
can.
think it may be their choice that they're saying as of now, we do not have approval and we do not have 200 feet in Alton. So we need a variance. And probably they could at their election go forward with a variance application. Because as they stand here presently, they don't meet the requirements for the lot. Because they have no planning board approval and they don't have 200 feet in Alton. So technically speaking, I guess you are in a situation to seek a variance.
Okay.
But
But
the
in your,
variance criteria are what we're going to have to consider as opposed to the planning board that are not, stuck with the statutory area to make the decision.
Right, and it would be a very, a similar type of decision if you only had 40 feet of frontage. Because we're saying you have less than the 200 and all, and we're still making the same type of decision.
Yeah, I mean,
So I
if
think we
somebody
should go.
just came in here and all they had, the entire lot was in Alton, and all they had was a small driveway of 40 feet, and they said, hey, I want a variance, and we go, well, geez, we require 200 feet, and you got 40 feet. I think that might be a really hard variance to get,
But we would hear it.
but we'd hear it, of course. And I've been saying, I think probably they have the right to go forward with the variance, because as they sit now, they do not meet either planning board approval or 200 feet in Alton, so therefore they don't qualify for the lot. If they got a variance, they would. But we have to apply the variance criteria.
So Paul, your interpretation of the definition would say it's 200 feet after it's split, not as it sits today.
It's, every individual lot has to meet that requirement. So if you're making a new lot, each lot has to be in compliance with the 200-foot frontage.
Agreed, which it will be, right? But it's, some of it's in the other town.
Some of it's in the other town, so it's not in compliance with the definition of frontage under.
I'm not so sure, because this.
Well, I mean, if they're if they are in compliance with the definition of frontage, then they don't need to be here at all.
So the
Then they've got
applicant,
200 feet of frontage.
the applicant has to
Maybe.
make a decision, is if they want to pursue the variance here tonight. Bottom line is, nobody wants to be harmed through this, obviously.
Correct.
Right.
And a clear path without any harm to the applicant would to be follow the planning board criteria and then in fact come back here if necessary, is one opinion. Not saying it's the right one.
Right.
Or roll the dice on a possible variance tonight. But that's not even saying that's going to get approved.
Yeah, because we have, strict requirements of approving applications for variance and have to consider other cases. And I'm not trying to give anybody legal advice. I'm just talking with the
Right, we're just
board
talking.
members as to whether it's appropriate for us to proceed. And I think going through that analysis, because in the beginning, I was saying we can't proceed. But now that I look at it, we can, because as the applicant sits here today in front of us, the applicant does not have planning board approval and does not have 200 feet of frontage on a lawful road in Alton. So therefore, the applicant right now does not meet the criteria for the lot unless we grant a variance. So they can go forward, I think, and at a minimum, I think it would be appropriate to say the applicant is in a position to go forward with a variance application. We would just have to apply the variance criteria in making the decision.
That would be his decision now.
Correct.
So, I mean, this is just a board discussion right now. So based on the information that the board has and listening to the applicant, is there anything in the worksheet that would give the members trouble with the criteria that we are under? Public interest, spirit of the ordinance, substantial justice?
I think the answer is yes. If someone from the public were to come up and have a major concern with this, then I would be paused. I'd take pause.
Yep. That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
But,
We're gonna hear that out in the kids.
but specifically with a variance, as we all know, right, the last criteria is hardship.
Right.
So if the variance covers a multitude of,
That's why I'm saying.
To get to the real answer, and I think the applicant has all but presented the applicant's argument here. I mean, and there's more opportunity for the applicant to, if we go forward, to give us any more detail or helpful information. But really, probably the only thing remaining is public input, for or against. Although Paul would certainly have an opportunity to add as much as you wanted to this, but I think it's a very straightforward thing. And then we would just go through these criteria and see how they shake out for us, but.
Or any other, are we hearing the case now?
Well,
as we speak?
the,
Well,
well, I think the question goes back to you. Do you want to proceed with a variance, or would you rather?
I'd
hold
rather
off
get
and
the
go to
variance,
plan?
not worry about planning board telling me I have to come back.
Say that again, Paul?
I would rather go through with the variance than have the planning board tell me I have to come here again.
Move forward with the case. Let's go back to where we were. You've stated your case. We'll go, if there's anything else, like you said, any other comments from the board or questions?
No. No, if you want to proceed, then that's what we should do.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that's what we're doing, and we're still at the point of any comments or questions from the board.
Could I just, so what did we say? There's roughly how many feet in Alton?
59,
Okay, so 60 feet.
49, something like that.
Let's call it 50 feet in Alton.
Yep.
That means there's 150 feet in Gilmanton, right?
Yep, 152.
And as far as this road is concerned, when you're there on the property and you're looking at the road frontage for this lot, it's pretty much contiguous. It looks just as much as any street that was fully in Alton would look.
You didn't know the town line was there, you wouldn't know the difference.
You wouldn't even know that it's not in Alton.
Right,
And it's kind of a unique circumstance of this property that part of it is part of the lot, therefore is in Gilmanton, right?
part of the lot is, yeah.
Right, so that's a unique and special circumstance of the property that sets it apart from a different lot that would have a full 200 feet, right?
Correct.
Okay, and nothing about the roadway obstruction, sight lines or anything like that that would be an issue to give the public any concern?
No, we're planning to have a shared driveway, so we're not adding any more driveways. Driveway's been there.
This is where both Alton Public Works and school buses come around. And we've had no issue over the years. You know, we've been using either Alton or Gilman school bus turning around at that point, because that's the halfway point for the.
Sir?
Bruce Kennedy, the owner.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
Sure.
Thank
you. It's pipelines and everything else. I mean, it's safe enough that everybody turns around.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, so for the record, though, the way this subdivision, so the lot, there would be 7.47 acres on lot 4. Lot map, is that the new lot?
That would be the new lot.
That'd be the new lot.
The remaining land is 100 something. 170.
And that's on 180 acres that it sits on right now.
Correct,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, and the land, the 7.47, is that in Alton or is
All of that is in Alton.
all of that 7.47 land is in Alton?
Yes. If you see right here,
Yep,
this is the town line, right there.
yep,
This little triangle here is what's in Gilmington. Here's the existing driveway, that is in Alton. And Gilmington said since, because I called him, I said, do we have to come for subdivision here too? He says if the lot isn't altered, Eddie, we don't have to. It's not going to be altered. We're not putting a driveway on it. We're not doing anything to it. It's just there.
Any other questions on the board? Should I open it up to public input?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move forward then.
It's already part of the lot. So it's not two separate parcels. It is only because they're in different towns. Well, we have different parcel numbers.
At this point, we typically open up the meeting to any public input, positive or favor or negative. Seeing no public input, come back to Paul. Is there anything else you'd like to add or
I don't think so.
anything else from the board?
I just want to say, you know, if you think about the reason why the town requires 200 feet of frontage for a lot like this, I don't think that any of those reasons are in any way adversely affected in this scenario of the lot. I mean, of the frontage being just in some other town, you know, it's, you require 200 feet for a reason. And you want the lots to be certain sized and so forth. And I don't see this request as in any way going against the purpose of the ordinance or creating any problem for the town or anything else by permitting it under these circumstances. So I'm just in a little bit of deliberation as we think about, you know, what this really means to just have part of the road in another town.
Else want to state the opinion on, should we get to the worksheet?
I think we should go to the worksheet.
The worksheet, thank you.
Any chances?
This is the variance work.
Our worksheet. I don't even know if I'm here
we
or if
may
I'm
need
back
another
home at the
worksheet.
moment. To be in front of TV right now, it doesn't even matter.
It should have been a worksheet.
I know, but
Is there one?
it's okay.
Was one for the worst case, right?
There you go.
There's a blank one, Paul.
Thank you, thank you. I'm just an alternate.
Did you have to be here today?
Apparently, I try to get on.
Printing on a TV.
You want to look at your Gilmanton folder? No.
It's
That's the go.
paid by the word, right? Okay, let's go into the variance worksheet. After reviewing the application and hearing all the evidence and testimony regarding the appeal request before them, the town of Alton Zoning Board of Adjustment has determined the following. First item, public interest. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest for all of the reasons that Paul so adequately described.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Spirit of the ordinance, the request, I believe, is in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, the intent of the master plan, and with the convenience, health, safety, and character of the district within which it is proposed. This is a very unique situation with the continuity of the land and the property line and no changes to alter. I feel this is definitely in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance.
I agree.
Agreed.
I agree.
Agreed.
Substantial justice. By granting the variance, substantial justice will be done. This is an anomaly. It's not gonna, as we had, the board has discussed, it's not going to change what the 200 foot of frontage is and what we're requiring, you know, for properties of this size. It's 180 acres. 7.47 acres, you know, substantial justice will be done if the variance is approved.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agree.
The request will not diminish the value of the surrounding properties. This is not going to be changing anything on the property and anything like that on the road. So this is going to have no effect, I believe.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agree.
I agree.
For purposes of this subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, one, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. And that's what I was commenting on when we think about why that 200 frontage is a requirement of zoning. None of the purposes of why that exists is in any way going to be thwarted or not, or become a problem here. This satisfies the general public purpose of the ordinance. And the unique circumstance or special conditions of the property are that it's located in two towns and it's being created that way. Whatever Gilmanton has to say about it is another issue for us. So I would say yes to that. And then second, the proposed use is a reasonable one, and it certainly is a reasonable use for a residential lot.
I'll agree with you, and I'm still struggling whether or not the definition actually refers to the lot as exists or it has changed. But either way, I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree as well.
With that said, would someone like to make a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve application for variance for case number Z 25-03.
All in favor?
I second the motion.
Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
I just came from Barnstead, got 2 applications approved there before I came here.
But just to finish.
I have no, I don't either. I may, no, it could be. It is, it has to be because I have all that.
I had it right.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is.
I have it. Yeah, sorry.
Do we keep
sorry.
moving with the meeting?
Let's keep moving, please.
The next item on the meeting is other business,
We have more,
new business, rather, excuse me.
we're doing the agenda. I have an agenda.
So do we need to
Yes, I
approve
do,
this,
and Not me.
Yeah. I don't think you did them before, did you?
Did we not do that at the beginning of the meeting? Sorry.
No, you talked about it, but we didn't.
Okay.
And are these people here for this?
So we
We can share this if you need to.
Oh, I got it.
Yes.
You got it.
There you go.
No,
Do
well,
you have-
no,
do
this
you
is
have
the
this?
minute.
That's,
Oh, one
that's the
per
minutes.
case?
This, no, this was about the, in here, the new business. We had to look over the applications. And this is it from the conference.
Oh, I have those because that's,
Do you?
yeah, that's right. But
I have.
But why are we
here.
doing
It
this?
is.
Huh?
You
Is
got
that it right
If
there?
you hit the
It
button-
should say Z 21-22.
Yeah,
That's it.
why are we doing?
Z 21-22, 20 and 23 and.
Oh, the applications.
Okay, group, if we could move forward. Let's move forward. There's a request for a extension of, board to address the application for extension of decision dated 10/23/23 to amend approval for case Z 21-22 at the Alton Bay Christian Conference Center in Beacon Ave. And we have that in front of us, I hope.
Yes, we do.
At this point, do we need to review this as a application request, or we just move forward to?
I just gave some, so this is for 3 lots, Z 21-22, 21-23, and 21-24. There were 3 lots that were originally approved. And that's why I just want to make sure, because you only read one, so that's why I just want to make sure that you're upset.
Yeah. I do have all 3 here, but
Okay, great.
You gentlemen just announce your names, please.
Yes, sir. Norma, good evening, gentlemen. I've met some of you before over at Alton also. I'm Dave Perella, Chairman of Building and Grounds. This is Jonathan Timon, who's the new director for the retreat center also.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
How you doing?
Thank you. Well.
What are we doing?
Oh, yeah.
No, I know.
I'm not really sure.
So Paul, the reason am I able to speak?
Go ahead.
Please, yes.
The reason
please.
we're here is that basically, so Brad Smith had requested an extension. And he received the extension last year, okay? I did not see the extension, and as we know, Brad had fallen sick, so things have kind of happened on our retreat center. And then in November of this year, I saw the extension had expired, so I wanted to make sure I say, hey, we're not trying to do anything nefarious here, but we've got an issue because this is expired. We had basically an issue where because of COVID, because of the rampant inflation, et cetera, is the cottage owners that were going to originally build there had all like upset the basket, basically. And so now we have people that are ready to build. And we have 2 of them that are in the process of finalizing their architectural plan so that they can come to the town and get their permits for it. But because this is expired, I wanted to make sure, hey, are we all set? So that these people can then move forward.
So it's the same lots.
Correct.
Okay.
Same lot, same everything.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Did they actually expire?
So the 1 year, it was a 1-year extension that Brad had asked for. And that extension,
The original, excuse me for interrupting. So the original decisions, I was looking at notices of decision letters,
Mhm.
right? And they're dated 2000, you have 2 years in which to do the project from when you get the approval, don't you? Or am I wrong about that? I think, in other words, if you apply for a special exception, it
Yep.
gets approved.
Yep.
I think it's good for 2 years.
But Paul, it looks like the decision was made 21.
All the
Yeah.
decisions in 21?
so the original decision was in 21.
Okay,
And so in 23, when it expired, and that was
I see.
obviously.
Then
just
you
after
got
COVID,
another extension,
He got a year extension.
only a year extension.
That's
Okay.
right,
All right,
exactly.
Thank
Not
you
a
for
2-year.
that.
Now,
Okay.
by the way, I do want to ask, so here's the thing, is like, as I just articulated to you folks, that we have two of the plots where the cottage owners are in the advanced stages of getting their process completed. Because we basically, they have to do their, obviously, they have to do their designs, get them approved through the retreat center. And the third one is not at that stage yet. So the only question I have for the board also is if we're able to get an extension, can we get for one of these plots an 18-month extension versus a 12-month extension? I don't know how this works for you folks, and I just want to just say, ask it up front if that's possible.
Well, why wouldn't we just do an 18-month extension for all three?
I'd be happy with
That would
that
be-
too,
that
sir.
would be
Yes, sir.
preferred.
I just didn't want to over ask.
It would make, and that way it would make it all consistent. That we gave extensions the first time and we did extensions.
Yep.
Now the second time, and they're all equal. That way.
Perfect.
You don't have to come back for one.
Yes, sir. Yes, I don't know how, I just want to
Unless
kind
the
of just,
board felt differently about that.
No, I agree with that.
okay,
All three of them.
that'd be great. Okay.
Did you have something, Norma?
My only concern is what the RSAs may say as far as the regulations of what the number of months or the amount of time an extension can be. If anyone knows that. Sometimes it's very
The
specific.
state statute may restrict it. We could. I wonder if the solution is if we move to grant the request for extension into 18 months or whatever the state statute provides, whichever is less, probably, no, not whichever is less, but whichever is more. Or,
Well, it'd
no,
probably have to
because
do
then
with-
we'd be exceeding 18 months and we wouldn't know it. So if we said, grant an extension for 18 months, provided the 18 months is in accordance with the applicable statute, then I think that probably does. And then that puts the onus on the applicant to find out what the statute says, and on the board for that matter, because we'd want to calendar it correctly. But we can at least probably make that decision tonight.
Norman, do we know what the RSA says about this?
We don't.
I didn't see anything in the town regs and I really don't know,
This,
where would
the
the state
state
be involved
statute.
with that for us?
No, but the state would, the state,
State will know.
the states, there are a number of state statutes which govern
Yeah.
these, so.
We have a requirement on it too, and I'm trying to remember exactly, if we approve a new building, in like outside of the lot lines, there was a reason for them to come here. I kind of recall it as they have 2 years we've done this with some of the storage unit places. They have 2 years to build. If they don't, they can come back for a 1-year extension. Wherever I saw this, it was pretty well laid out. And it was, I'm pretty sure it was with one of the storage unit, the buildings that was going to become storage units.
I seem to recall that.
I'm sorry, I'm not being specific.
No.
I think this covers it though.
Well, if we said,
Say an
if
18-month.
we granted 18 months or 18 months, provide the 18 months is in accordance with the applicable statutes.
If I could interject, so everybody's, it came forward, presented the case, we approved it. This is what is being approved. And various reasons, as duly noted, some out of your obviously control. This isn't the same parties with the same plans going forward. It's the same lots.
Yeah.
Right.
So now we have 3 new parties, right?
Mhm.
Who just want to build on these lots, but could very well be different sized buildings.
Oh,
maybe-
no.
No, so they're all gonna be the
They
same
can't.
size buildings, so the only thing that's going to, basically, the way this was worked out before was that, so, the retreat center was getting the approval that we can build the 3, and then the parties, as they go through building, are going to present their architectural plans to the
Yes.
planning board as normal procedures would be
Okay.
That's correct.
to get approved.
Okay.
So, but I can tell you, because I'm the one that looks at their plans, and that's why I dot the i's, cross the t's with them, is that they're all the same size, they're all the same everything. So that meaning they meet the constraints and the original intent of this plan.
That's why I asked you if there was nothing changed.
Right.
Nothing has changed. You're
nothing's
simply
changed.
asking for that
It-
extension.
it-
That's right.
There's a lot of, in my, I'm just with having a discussion, but, so there's been a lot of change. We're talking the same lots, we're talking basically same size, structures, et cetera, new owners. Given ample time, given an extension, I honestly feel it's time for a timeout. Because 18 months, let's just take a step back. If the applicant comes back and applies, things are clean. We have clean ownership. Granted, it's all under the retreat. Here's the plan. Certainly gives that third party their 18 months, because if you come forward with us, we would approve for 2 years, right? They would have 2 years on the docket at that point. So there's no question there. You got ample time
Mhm.
for all that. It would take some little bit of legwork. Basically, you're going to submit the same plans for the most part that you previously had submitted, I'm assuming, based on what you're saying. I just think that's cleaner than going through this again and then getting convoluted with RSA's.
If we
and
just,
everything else.
because I have two of these people that are hoping to start building in the spring. So in other words, they're looking to
Understood.
get under, come in and file their architectural plans
Mhm.
to get on the next meeting for the planning board. And so I would rather not have to pause and redo all of this again if we don't have to.
My whole point is, again, looking at the liability of the town and for clarity for everybody concerned. They're looking to spring 3-4 months out. In my opinion, there's ample time, application completed. Yes, there's a cost associated with that, some fees. Here is a clean plan. Are they approved or not approved? If so, get approved. You have 2 full years ahead of you. I just think this looks like a carnival ride, for lack of a better use of a term. Not saying it's kind of messy. That's all.
So are you recommending we only, for all 3 lots, we go for 1 year? Is
No,
that-
I'm saying for all 3 lots, they reapply.
They reapply is what he's saying.
And
Reapply
clean this
now.
up. Yes.
Can I just?
Go ahead.
If I may.
I'm just throwing that.
No,
out
no,
there for
no,
discussion.
I understand it. I think the thing that's important to emphasize here is that the only thing in front of us is to extend the deadline by which to implement these decisions that have already been made. They cannot be altered or changed in any way, or they're in violation and they could be shut down. So if the applicant thinks by getting another year, it means they can do a different project, they cannot. The only thing that's because they came before the board, they presented, they are by law mandated to follow every representation that was made orally at the hearing. Everything that's said at the hearing becomes a condition of the approval, and everything that's in the plan. They may not deviate one bit from these original decisions. The only thing they're getting right now is
The
an extension of
extension
time
of that
in
time.
which to
That's all
implement
you're
that.
asking.
And if they deviate from it, they would be in violation. Okay. Now, my understanding is that a special exception runs with the land, so that, for example, if Mr. Jones came here tonight and got a special exception granted, and on next Monday, he sold the property and never put a shovel in the ground to implement it, the person who bought the property could then do that plan. Can't deviate from it, but can do that actual plan. So the fact that there may be new owners or new people implementing the plan, I don't think is a problem.
Okay.
But certainly they can't deviate from this, and it's just a question of granting another year. And what that would do, Tom, is save them the headache of going through another application. It wouldn't give them the 2 years and it raises a question for me whether if you let time expire, maybe you can just start from scratch and keep getting it over and over. But when you do that, you do run the risk that circumstances, zoning ordinances and so forth may change.
Yep.
So there's a value in getting this extended as opposed to
Absolutely.
requiring them to start from scratch.
And Paul, you're pretty certain that this runs with the land, not the applicant.
I'm not 100% certain, but I'm like 95 to 99% sure,
agree with
because
you.
I had one lawyer, in fact, he was here at one of the applications and he said, oh, special exceptions don't run with the land, they go to the person. I completely disagree with that. I mean, we could get a legal decision from town council, but I'm pretty certain that they run with the land. Yeah,
I
exactly.
do remember these, and I do remember this going through because of the uniqueness of the size
Right.
of the lot
Mhm.
and the size of the place. We know how big the Christian Conference
Yeah.
Center is,
Yep.
that this obtained mainly for the approval of the special exception to be able to build
Correct.
more than one home.
That's right.
So this was specifically for having
These three
three
lots.
lots,
Yeah.
to be able to create those three lots.
And I
That's
remember,
what that.
I remember this distinctly,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of conditions, okay? A lot of conditions on those
Mhm.
three lots, if I remember
Yes, they
correctly.
were.
And those haven't changed.
And it has,
Right.
The conditions run
The
with
same.
the lots.
that's
So-
correct.
You're only looking, you're only looking for extension.
Because
That's
that
why
date
I
expired in
specifically
twenty twenty-three. I just wanted to say, hey, we'd like that
And
extension.
you,
So there is an interesting opposite side to this. Since your extension ran out, your lots are probably too small to build on. We could go, right? I mean, is that not the case? Right, we would,
First of all, in the Christian Conference Center, everything up there is non-conforming, everything.
That's correct. That's
Everything,
what I was saying.
because there, technically speaking, there should be one residential dwelling structure on that whole property. Okay, however many acres it is. I think that's the case.
It is
So
the-
everything is non-conforming and everything will continue to be non-conforming. I think the technical question here is that if you allowed it to expire before you sought an extension, you may be out. You may have nothing to bring. You have nothing to extend. So that is another legal question that I have that I don't, as I sit here now, I don't have the answer to. And maybe this whole thing is a subject for legal,
Legal
for town council to weigh in on. And the reason this is extremely important to us, of course, is we want to do everything completely legally and by the book so that everybody's treated the same and we don't make a horrible mistake where somebody comes out of the woodwork and appeals this whole thing and we find out we didn't even have the authority to grant another year extension because what were we extending? We extended something that no longer existed.
So,
I don't know the
well,
answer to
so
that.
Paul, could we hypothetically, if we so went down this road, approval of these three cases to be extended for such period of time on the condition of town council's approval?
Yes.
I'd be happy with that because that saves the applicant from having to come back. It saves the board
And
from
that
having
keeps
to
you
address the
legal,
issue.
Keeps us legal.
Keeps it clean for you, keeps it
Sure.
clean for the
That
town,
makes sense.
and going to the
Sure.
legal counsel, we don't always want to do that, but it makes it so that they can read the RSAs and read the statutes and be able to tell us better.
And it's not an unusual decision for a board like this, for our board to do, because we do them all the time. For example, we can't prove something that's not lawful. So we say, we'll grant you this special exception, provided you comply with a DES septic approval.
Right.
You know, because we're not gonna let them do something that isn't lawful. But we're done. Our part's done. Now it's up to the other authorities to
Correct.
So
kick in.
if you're asking for the legal question from whoever the people are that.
It'd be
you're-
legal counsel to the
legal
town.
Counsel to the town, how long does that take? Only because basically we just want to make sure that we're still trying to move people forward, so we don't have this problem happen again. So that's why I just want.
To have a decision wouldn't take long. It'd be a matter of getting in contact with legal counsel,
Gotcha.
getting him familiar with this property and familiar with what you're asking for and what you're doing.
Okay.
And then he would look that up. He'd be able to do that
And-
relatively
And
quick.
that's something with you folks end up doing and then just give us the decision? Is that how that works or how does
we're,
that
we're
work?
gonna make a decision on a time frame of an extension.
Okay,
But with
With the condition.
with the condition that that the town council says that we can do it.
Can do that,
legally,
sure.
You know,
Sure.
am I saying that right?
Yeah,
No,
but
it-
we
it's-
can't do this with an open end. So right, we want to do this the right way. So,
Be an
We're not
open
gonna
ended.
do an open end.
but we are, right? We're saying, hey, we're going to give you the extension for a year as long as,
No,
as long as,
Contingent.
as long as town council approves it.
legal counsel.
But when does town council have to approve it by? Within 12 months? That's,
No,
It won't
I
take
think,
long.
I think maybe to make it a broader decision, it would be, the board would move to approve the extension for 1 year on all 3 applications,
Mhm.
okay? On condition that the extensions are all lawful, they're in compliance with all applicable law. And then what we'll do for our information is talk to town council and say, if this application had expired and they didn't renew it and a year went by, is it dead in the water? Or did we have the right to extend this for a year? Or are there any other restrictions such as an RSA?
all that's fine and good,
Yeah.
except that the applicant's question is, if I were in his seat, is right on, which is, can I stop building those 3 houses tomorrow?
No,
No,
When can I stop building? Because how long is it going to take? How long?
legal counsel can have it done in a relatively timely fashion.
Unless they have to research it. And I get
No,
it.
that would be,
It's-
well,
I don't think it's gonna be much research.
So I'm
You're
making
looking
an
at the
issue of
state patent.
nothing. All right.
right.
I'm just thinking we're giving you a 12-month extension here. If I were in your shoes, I would go full bore ahead. Right? And unless you tell me no, I'm going full bore ahead.
It's based upon the condition of approval of town council. Town council will be notified after this meeting, as short as tomorrow if he's available, and then whatever amount of time it takes him. The case was already deliberated between us all. For
So-
most of us that were here, it was all approved. The question is, they got an extension, they missed the deadline,
Mhm.
they, for duly noted reasons, and they're asking, can we please start the clock effective, when he gives his approval, say
So
January
that's the
5th or 6th?
So you don't have an extension until you.
Yes.
And it's all
Contingent
contingent upon
Yeah.
the decision of legal counsel getting back to us and saying yay or nay, this,
So the period from now till then, there is no extension.
correct.
Right.
That's.
Or it's conditioned,
All right,
it's an
condition.
extension conditioned on.
It's just like you condition any other,
It's,
Hey.
right.
we put a condition on a septic system.
The request
You
for
put a
extension
condition
is,
On anything which we're allowed to do legally by this board.
Norma, is there any
Fair enough.
input from your side? What you're looking at with this, any questions from you is what I'm asking.
I just see something that was extended and then there was a deadline. And we're trying to sort of hook the two together and say, yeah, you can keep doing it, but it expired in October. Now we're in January, so there's this space where it wasn't legal.
and we haven't done anything because we are making sure we
Yeah.
go the,
Right.
came in.
In good faith, you're
Yeah,
here tonight.
Exactly.
In good faith,
Yes.
you know that it expired. You found out it expired.
Yes.
You had, it's a unique property.
Mhm.
It's, not that that really
Yeah,
matters at this point, but you have almost a hardship as far
Yep.
as you had a sickness, someone that was in charge that didn't fill out the paperwork in time. So that's
Exactly.
why you're here asking for extension. You realize that this had expired and you're taking it
Exactly. We're taking action to
and bringing
remedy
it to our attention.
That's right.
And this, just for everyone's sake, I know, for your time been around, we've all dealt with various cases from the conference center. It's unique. And I'll speak for myself. They've always done their due diligence and we've never had any concerns. And it's always been a little bit to jump through because of the uniqueness of the property. And Brad specifically, and you
Mhm.
yourself, we've met with, we've visited with multiple properties and we've had a good working relationship. So this isn't
Always.
some contractor on the outside that's trying to pull a fast one,
Right.
we're not familiar with.
Exactly.
I'm just worried that if Steve or whoever looks at this were to say exactly what Paul said, which is, there's nothing to extend.
Because there
So
really
what
isn't.
worries you? If he says no,
Well, then
then it don't proceed, they start again. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. We get that decision.
It's legal. We got his.
Legal counsel.
Guys come forward.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's
obviously,
normally what we do as a board. It's normally what all the boards do. And if it's a decision that the legal counsel says, no, this is not, this is the RSA, this is the statute, this is what my suggestion to you is do not accept this or anything like that. So if that's the case, then they start again.
and they start.
We hope that's not the answer, but if that's the answer you give us, then we just go back to our 3 cottage owners saying, listen, it ran out, we have to restart, which means they have to do
Another
whatever.
delay.
you know.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So Norm, if we make a decision to extend with the condition that legal counsel has to, how soon can you get to legal counsel on this matter? Would you
He's pretty.
say
he
early next
replies
week,
pretty-
would you say?
He replies pretty quickly. I would think within a few days, yeah.
Yeah. It would take, it's a matter of a phone call.
You're not looking at
And
months.
it's depending on his workload at that time of the day. This is not gonna take something that's gonna
I
take.
know,
months.
but I'm asking Norma when she's going to
Yeah.
get this at least addressed to legal counsel. And would it be early next week sometime to at least let him know what we're looking to do?
Well, that's what we need to do. Yeah.
If you could do that Monday, you're coming in Monday morning, you could notify legal counsel
That would be wonderful.
and
Okay.
see if we can't get a decision.
And I know you're busy, but
Well, we need an
know,
answer.
We need an answer.
We need an
Yeah,
answer.
we just need to get an
Not gonna
answer.
take it.
they need an answer. My recommendation also would be, you must have some sort of legal assistance at the Christian Conference Center. Maybe you should look up what the RSA says, and,
Sure.
so that you know what you may be up against
Okay,
if you want to appeal the decision,
gotcha,
okay? If the decision doesn't go
Yeah.
your way.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Norma, do you see any other issues other than that? Just want to make sure you're all set, because, you seemed a little reserved, so that's why I was just double checking.
Well, I know it's always up to the board, how do you approve something that's not really alive and on the table? It's something that has expired.
I'm not sure we know that though.
Right.
We're
You
still
know,
alive
if it
on the
has
table.
expired, so I think that's kind of subsumed in the condition that, the only benefit of doing that, which, is kind of a little, it's not really unprofessional, but it's a little, leaves some to be desired. The only reason we're doing that is because if it does work out okay, then they've got it already without having to wait until next month to come back. For what that's worth, I know, that I can understand why it
Or even
gives
several
you some
months,
pause.
depending on how the
Right.
calendars run.
Time-
That's what all the extra 10 minutes of discussion, thank you guys for, I'm sorry if I let us into it, but I think it's good discussion because we're all seem to be on board with trying to find you a way to get an extension.
Yes,
Exactly.
Well, the worst thing would be they start construction and somebody wakes up to the idea that this thing had no legal basis for extension anyway. And then they get shut down or some objector comes in and files an enforcement action or something. So this saves a lot of headache down the road to get it right at this time. And the conditional approval is a way to prevent you from having to wait till next month to come back for the extensions.
Yeah,
It's a
'cause
little sloppy,
nobody's gonna
frankly.
be starting until, in fact, like I said, they haven't even turned in their architectural plans yet to the town because they're still finalizing. So nobody's gonna be starting. So, getting
There's
this.
time.
Yes, there's time, but it's really one of those, I just kind of, where we finally have all the ducks in a row. I just don't want to upset the basket totally. We're like, oh boy, and then
Yeah.
basically people start backing out and now we're swimming upstream again. And that's the
As we did before, it was a 1-year extension. I think it would behoove us to go any further than 12 months because now
Fine.
we're
I agree with
really
that.
going from
That's
the
fine.
beach.
Yep.
I think a 1-year
That's
extension.
1
would be
year.
appropriate.
makes sense.
I was trying to just make sure.
So
I
do we
didn't
need a
realize
motion?
that we had this RSA that, could affect what our decision is. But hey, I'm cool with it.
Do we need a motion on this then?
I think so.
I'll move to make a motion.
Just do them separately. Or assume.
I was gonna put all three of them together because they're written down as three together, but I could separate them if that's what the board would rather. I move to extend case Z 21-22 for application. Decision that was made on 10/23/2023 to extend for 12 months, contingent on legal counsel decision.
So just so the way I heard that is you're extending it from 10/23. That's not really what you want to extend it from now, from 10/23.
I was just reading what was on here when the last decision was, and it was on 10/23. I can strike that if you'd like.
I think, we're gonna be okay with me rewording it? Oh, good, yeah,
Yeah,
please,
I can-
let's strike it, if you want.
Just strike the date, and I'll leave the date out.
Extend 12 months, yep,
12 months from what date?
today, right?
From
From
the day of,
today's date.
from the day of approval, because if it takes them 3 weeks to approve it, they just lost close to a month.
Okay,
So legal counsel says on the 9th of January, he approves it, such as the date, the 12-month clock runs.
And if they're giving a 12-month extension on something that went through October of 2024, where do the 12 months lie?
From when the lawyer approves it plus 12 months, right? Is that what you're
Correct,
saying?
from when the lawyer approves it, and the date he approves it for the 12 months from that period.
So it's longer than 12
I'm
months?
just asking the question.
No.
That would be it.
Okay, so that was the first one. I make a motion to extend case Z 21-23. Extension, this contingent on legal counsel decision from the date of his decision, 1 year. And then I make a motion to extend case Z 21-24 to extend from 1 year, for 1 year from the date of decision of legal counsel.
I don't know if we need to go second on those one at a time, or does somebody want to second the first one?
I'll second it for purposes of discussion. And I would say, it may be better to extend it 12 months from the date that it expired, conditioned on town council's approval of that extension. And the reason I say that is, we call it nunc-pro-tunc. If we did it that way, we're going back to so we're doing it now for then. And we go back nunc-pro-tunc to the day of expiration, as opposed to saying we are going to extend it from now after it was already dead in the water. So I think it's a better legal decision to go back to the date of expiration of each of those things. And you got 12 months from when they expired, not from today. And that 12 months from when it expired is conditioned on town council's approval of that extension. I think that's the better way to do it.
Okay.
Because then we don't get into this legal issue of we took a dead thing and made it alive.
What I'm gonna do is I will retract my motions and have you motion with the dates.
Okay, so I would, do we have the date of expiration for each of these things? And I think it is appropriate to do them separately in case one's in better shape than another. They may lose one and keep the others, so we'll do them separately.
When was the date again, Norma, of?
Probably, 10/20.
10/23/23.
Well, they all say that on here. Yep.
Go ahead, sorry.
So that's what I started to say the first time you stopped me.
I stopped you.
Remember? I
Did
put the
they all
date in there.
expire in October of 23?
That's what it's.
But then I
Everything was
clearly
done at the
asked
same
you,
time.
you want 12 months or you
Yeah,
want
but
less?
the extension took them to 10/23/23?
Correct.
That's the way I was reading it
Okay.
in the
Except
first
they
time.
used- Well,
And then there was,
Right,
but it was going, you're going back to October 23 now, it's only 8.
right.
hold on, sorry.
Because that's,
10/20
yeah,
The hearing date was in 2023, which extended it to 2024.
That's what I'm thinking.
That date,
Right, right.
2024.
So on each of the cases individually,
I think it's September
I
9th.
don't,
On board action on 2 September 2021, the Alton zoning board adjustment duly noticed hearings, that was 2021.
yeah,
Looking for that date after 2023 into 24. You think so?
I think it's September 9th, 24.
It says the seventh.
Okay,
First page.
September, hearing date was
9th.
September 7th, 2023 for the extension.
The date of the decision though is September
yeah, but the
9th.
date of the decision
yeah.
was 23, and this guy, Thomas Lee, signed it.
No.
Okay.
So so it expired on 10/23/24. Right.
10/23. Would be when it,
When it expired, 23/20. And was that the same decision for each of these three
I
cases?
believe it was, but
Yes.
let me just check. Yes. And yes, again. Yes, all three it was signed off by this Thomas Lee, Chairman, 10/23/23, and that gave an extension for
10/23/24.
Okay,
Does someone want to take a shot at a motion?
I'm gonna give that to Paul.
I would
I
move,
retract mine.
I would move that we
do them separately.
extend the deadline on case Z 21-22 for 12 months from October 23, 2024.
I'll second that motion.
Oh,
You
Okay,
gotta.
somebody-
Yeah.
Condition-
Condition, and that the extension be conditioned on approval of the extension by town council.
Second that motion.
On favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Do the other two or you got?
I will also move that we extend the deadline on case Z 21-23 for 12 months from October 23rd, 2024, conditioned on approval from approval of that extension from town council.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
And I would also move that we approve the application for extension for case Z 21-24 for 12 months from October 23, 2024, conditioned on town council approving that extension.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay,
That's it.
So you guys will get
That's it.
notification in the mail.
okay,
Thank
you get a notification.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Norma's gonna work on it. Keep
You will.
keep in touch with Norma, okay? And look, check this out yourself, you know, okay?
I actually started doing some reading there, but truthfully, kind of like one thing leads. to-
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna need legal counsel
Some- I-
to decipher.
Because some of it may be case law involved in this. I did one recently myself.
What's that?
Oh, Brad, we wish him all best.
Hope he does.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
It's going down.
Yo,
Give my best.
Yes.
My best. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Thank you.
Let's keep moving on the agenda here. The next is the approval of the ZBA meeting schedule. Everybody has a copy of the schedule?
Yes.
Yeah, I just looked at a couple dates to see if they
Schedule.
affected with
I
any
have-
holiday, specifically July 4th. And everything was pretty good. It doesn't look like there's anything
Let
Labor
me
Day.
print this off if I could. I'm sorry, I spoke out of turn.
The date to me looked fine.
I'm surprised you wanted off. I heard you were, ill, you know,
Are we all good with the dates?
Yes,
yeah, good.
it's good.
We're moving forward. Tom Lee and Tim Morgan are up for reelection in 2025.
What a shame.
Just
They need to file timely if they're gonna rejoin us, and I hope they are.
really noted.
It's no fun without it. It's not a party without you.
There you go.
You don't get out that easy. Come on, come on, come on. Gotta stick around.
Well, it's not up to me, it's up to the voters, right?
Yeah, but you have,
As though he's been opposed.
Please.
You have to run. The last time I ran for election for this post, I spent $4.5 million on my campaign.
Yeah, it's a new world now.
Oh,
I'm in
kidding.
double digits.
Oh, you're like 10 million.
You do get paid by the word. down there. No wonder you can afford that. Let's keep moving. I'm sorry.
Before we approve the minutes, I do have an announcement. And this is obtaining to exactly what we just discussed of the votes coming up and your terms coming up. My term is selecting, it's coming up this year. And I am not seeking another term. So, and that being said, I was here in this board prior, I've been on this board probably about 12 years now. And maybe almost 13 years. So I came on as the liaison or representative for the selectmen. Now, it was brought to my attention 3 years ago that someone from the board of selectmen had to be on it. That is not true. RSAs say that you do not need a selectman representative on this board. You do on the planning board. So it was misunderstood that this board had to have a selectman. So that being said, my term is coming up. I am not up this year for going again for the ZBA. I have 1 year left. But that being said, I'm leaving as selectman. I'd like to put my position up for one of the alternates that would like to step up and fill in my last year before they have to go for reelection. And this way here, in other words, I've done a long time of civil service and town service, and I'd like to take a break. So at this time, I'm just saying probably my last meeting, we have our town election will be, it's gonna be March 11th. So I've got 2 meetings left as far as this board, and I'm gonna have 4 left as selectmen. So, but it's been quite a ride, been very interesting, very educational. I've loved the whole thing all the way through, but I think it's time to take a break. I may come back later on and reapply, but I might take a stab at the planning board, but we'll see what happens. Okay?
You'll be missed.
Thank you.
Yeah, where are we gonna get the information that comes out of your head that, you know, seriously, we're gonna be losing a lot.
No, not really. You're gonna be gaining a lot.
No, not necessarily.
Well, there's,
I think he makes it up as he goes.
Oh,
So again, I appreciate everything from everyone. I've enjoyed thoroughly everyone on the board. And, you know, we still have a few more meetings left. But I've made that decision over the last month that I decided it's time to give it a rest for a while.
Well, thank you.
It's a lot of
Thank
work.
you for your service.
yeah.
Well, just,
No, you've
there's a lot more behind the scenes that people don't realize and how often you're gonna be here. And I'm not complaining. It's not a complaint. It's just that grandchildren, children, other things that you wanna do, and that I just wanna.
Frank, do you have
emphasize.
do you have anything you'd like to tell us?
What?
Do you have anything that you'd like to tell us?
Kind of hoping something else.
Okay, let's keep going. The next item is approval of the minutes. Any comments on the minutes?
Rome, but my name's not Tim Morgan, so take that for what it's worth, but
Hi,
pretty good. to
why,
me.
when did you change it? When did you change your name? Where's it say Tim Morgan?
No, I'm
No,
not
no.
Tim Morgan,
He's not.
because Tim goes through these things.
Tim goes-
Tim goes, oh. Tim goes- Yeah, but I noticed
There's no period.
there's no, but, well, I'm only an alternate, so I'm not gonna say anything. The only thing I would make a comment about is on page 1, appointment of alternates. It really shouldn't be that the vice chair asked us to sit on the board. It should accurately state that motions were made to appoint the alternates as full members for the hearing. I don't know how that would be worded, but it should reflect that motions were made, a vote was taken,
Okay,
and it was passed that the 2 members be appointed, because that's what the protocol
yeah,
required.
I don't,
It's not just you asking us to sit.
yeah, I don't know if I've seen it.
It's
written
just
like
not
that before.
accurate. And then the other thing I know, we used to have a lot more detail, because they were like reading a freaking stenographer's transcript in remember those minutes way back when?
yeah,
They would
yeah.
have every sentence we
Well,
uttered.
we're recorded
it-
now, so I
but-
think that.
It's recorded, yeah. We weren't recorded before.
A long
Right.
time ago, we were not. No, I
we
mean,
weren't- no,
actually,
It's recorded.
Well, you record, but
Yeah.
we weren't videotaped.
Are we videotaped?
Is there a way to use the?
I didn't know that.
right there.
Is there a way to
Even
use the
I've
recording?
known that. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, are we required to document the meeting in paper, or can we use the recording as the?
No, I think you have to have paper minutes.
You have to have
Yeah.
both.
I think you have to have both. And we used to, there was always a fine line between doing like a one summary thing, Frank says this and everybody agrees, I say that, everybody. And then we've had people that have like taken almost verbatim the discussion on the tape. But somewhere in between, there's a thing where we were always counseled to state reasons for our decisions where appropriate.
Okay.
And because it makes a stronger record. And then if a summary of that stated decision is included in the minutes, it helps.
Right.
Because when these things go to court, the minutes are a big part, because people don't have the audio recording. You do get transcripts, but the minutes are really important. The paper minutes are important.
All right, well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 7th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Approved. Any correspondence?
Not running. This place is no fun.
I'd like to make a
There's
motion
never
for
any
adjournment.
cars.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wow.
Good job, guys.
Oh, I think technically speaking, you just end up not showing up for.
For a year.
Will there be a whole year left? No.
No,
Because you'll
it
be here
won't be a
till
whole year.
March. So, well.
No, the next
No, it
person
would
doesn't,
be.
it would be a year because
It
the
would
next
be a year,
person
yeah.
don't take off.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Because
I was
don't-
trying,